Welcome to Yeshiva Shem Aver. I'm Rabbi David Katz. And we are getting ready to close out Sefer Shemos. This week is Parashas Vayakahel. The name of the article is The Covenant of Peace, the Brit Shalom. Questions, comments, or feedback, I can be reached at Rabbi Katz at virtualyeshiva.com. And as the program has always been in recent times, we're going to go through the Haftorah, into the Zohar, and onwards into the article on the Parsha. We give a bit of a mazel tov. We're getting ready to close out Sefer Shemos, obviously, and we're going to go into Sefer Vayikra. How do you say Vayikra? Leviticus. And we're going to be making a siyum, a completion of the Zohar. I think it's quite an achievement. We've been doing it because of the Noahide way, I guess, right? To strengthen prophets and Haftorahs, and which naturally brings in the Zohar, and thank God we will be making a completion. I think it's quite an accomplishment, and everybody was involved and participated. So thank you, and stay tuned and excited and waiting for the completion. We should do something proper online. Just to make an affirmation, questions, comments, or feedback, Rabbi Katz at virtualyeshiva.com. Alright, into the Haftorah. Not so much particular detail this week. It's a common theme. Is that a surprise? Probably not. If you've been reading the Parsha, you're going to be thinking that from Truma, Tetzavik, Yisisa, Vayakahel, and Bekudei, we're all one long story about Betzalel, right? I think we all kind of think that every year, that it's just one long, hey Moshe, go tell Betzalel to build the Mishkan. It's not exactly the way it is. It appears to be the way it is. And in the Haftorah, we have what, again, seemingly for the millionth time, we find King Solomon building the temple or something with King Solomon along these lines. That should not be an accident. King Solomon built the first temple. Here you have the Mishkan, King Solomon, the temple. They go hand in glove. There is a bit of a different angle, but the point is, King Solomon works with Hiram Mitzor, right? King Hiram, very mysterious character, right? He lived. The Midrash says he lived to be over 1,200 years. It's the same friend of Judah way back in Genesis. He's had a friendship and a loving way of the tribe of Judah, all the way from the beginning. Here he is with King Solomon. In the book of prophets, in the Tanakh, King Hiram gives a prayer to Solomon. It really, check it out in your own time. You know, I loved your father David, and I promised him this, and it's really, he's a special character. We know that King Solomon's wisdom came from the study of the Mishkan, right? And I know, again, for lack of a better term, Ger code, but it's the tutelage and the vessels of the Ger Tzedek woman, is what the Mishkan's made out of. You know, for example, the width of is how do you say the pronunciation? Rachva, whatever the nekudas are, and it sounds like Rachav. Right? Then you have Adonah, which is like the name of God, Adnus. All the words have double meaning. Almost all of them. Shittim, just like Joshua at the border of Israel going in, where they were camped out at Moab. Right? The entire construction of the Mishkan is the essence of Mepia Gevora, from the mouth of God I heard too. This is stated openly in the Midrash this week, stating the thing about Shittim. And therefore the whole entire construction can be taken one way or the other. This is why we say that Betzalel was commanded in the creation of the Mishkan, and he knew that how to change with the letters of creation to get the divinity necessary for the construction. The Zohar goes into this. This is where you get Atbash, Remez, Gematria, double connotation, double entendre, all of the different tools of parties, pshat, remez, drush, sod, simple meaning, hint, allegorical, and secret. It all comes from the divinity of the holy tongue, Lashon HaKodesh, and its ability to have multiple meanings. It's like the Torah is one book with one theme, yet we use the same words for different scenarios. An amma is a maidservant. An amma is the amount from your tip of your finger to your elbow. The measurement of a measurement. But Solomon is the master of getting into this. Solomon gets the wisdom how to build the temple from understanding this code of the Mishkan. And here he's got King Hiram with him, a relic from the days of Yehuda. The Zohar says that King Solomon had the greatest wisdom ever. Now we know, okay, he was the greatest Chacham, God gave him the wisdom. That's not what I'm talking about. In his meditation of the Mishkan, King Solomon rendered a level of repair to the highest world of Atzilus, as if Mashiach came and it was the final redemption, and Song of Songs was the result of such a level. It was not permanent, but he was there. This is the essence of what's called Kol HaTor, the song of the turtle dove, the doctrine of the complete redemption. Solomon was there. And it's this week's Parsha, basically. He's really building the temple now. We are really building the Mishkan now. The difference is quite simple in all the Parshiot. Right? And when we get into Vayikra, you're going to be asking the same questions. Isn't it the same offerings over and over and over again? Aren't we just covering the same, okay, it's an Ola, it's a Korban, bring the fire, go to the base of Midrash, talk to the Kohen. Isn't that the same thing, repetitive, over and over again? When we get to Vayikra, you'll see it isn't. If you really map it out, fine-tooth comb and map it out, you'll see that it's not the same thing. Here also, it's not the same thing. We have Truma. Truma is the command to build the Mishkan after Mishpatim. Mount Sinai statutes come afterwards. Apparently there's going to be a sin of the golden calf, I think, I heard, maybe. God preempts and says, build the Mishkan. Just build the Mishkan. The next parsha, Tetzaveh. Okay, who's going to serve the Mishkan? The priests. They need their garments. Kisisa, what happened? Golden calf, you're right. There was a golden calf. And that happens to have all the secrets of Mashiach in it to repair that which happened to the golden calf. Then we have our Parashas Vayakahel. Okay? There was a golden calf, ladies and gentlemen. We need now B'Tzalel to come build the Mishkan. In real time. And this week / next week. In Pekudei, the reckonings, which is what the translation of Pekudei means. The reckonings are the receipt. What did you do? What happened? What did you guys do? It's the ultimate level of the brokering of the Mishkan and the execution. God commanded, there was a cause and effect, there was the efforts involved, and the final product. The Torah is showing you how to bring something into this world. You got the command, you have the cause, the effect, the achdus, the camaraderie, working together, the craftsmanship, and the receipt. What happened? Okay. We have the vessels of the Mishkan being created at the same time. The Ark of the Covenant in Hebrew is Aron. Aleph Reish Vav Nun. And those that follow the Ger world are aware of a very special character, Aravna. King David's crony on top of the Temple Mount, which the commentaries call him Sar Mitsuras Tzion. The minister of the Temple Mount. And he's a Ger Tzedek non-Jew. Now his name has two spellings in Tanakh, and the one the Zohar wants to take up is Aravna. Spelled the same way as Ark, Aleph Reish Vav Nun, yet with a Hey at the end. The Zohar says that hay is the ayin hara, right? Or it actually spells it backwards. It's ra ayin, the evil of the eye. The eye is a very high level. Imagine our faces are a map, right? All we do is talk, right? We talk all day long. People talk about nonsense. We're very good at talking, lashon hara. Then if you're on the higher level, you can smell. We say the Mashiach will smell the impurities of the world. And if you can hear the voice of God, right, all the time we say, hear in my voice. Try to hear God in creation. That's another level. In Kabbalah we call it ozen chotem peh, the ear, the nose, the mouth. But the eyes are a whole different ballgame. Most people that ever lived are not on the level of the eyes. The eyes are called Av, Ayin Beis, the name of God that expands to 72. The correspondent with Chachma, wisdom. Is if you're not filled in your head with wisdom, your eyes are all over the place. That's how the Sitra Achra enslaves you. Hey, look at this, look at that, look over there, look at this, look at this. Go watch a movie for a couple hours. Watch this, look at that. I mean, look at a Hollywood movie today. It's not the 50s anymore, is it? Where you have a long scene for 20 minutes. Now, 20 seconds if you're lucky. If you're lucky. So the eyes are not even used. There's no wisdom in your eyes. Thus, the Sitra Achra, the other side, makes slavery through the eyes. The curtains of the tabernacle, the Mishkan, were made with an additional ayin. The name Ashtei Esrei. Linda, you know about that. Instead of Shtei Esrei, it's Ashtei Esrei. They say the Zohar, why is there an additional ayin? And the answer is, we don't want you looking at the Ark of the Covenant. You could die. Or being fixated on the Holy of Holies. So the goat skins are an attractive feature for the eye. In a holy way. Here it's not the other side. It's for life and death. So the additional ayin, which stands for the letter ayin stands for the word eye and eyeball. It engages the eyes in a holy way. It subdues the Yetzer Hara instead of employs it. Now, what we find out is this so-called ger code is that again, I hate the word ger code, so pardon me for ger code. But there's, whenever there's an anomaly in the Hebrew language, whether it be a double entendre, double meaning here and there, whatever it is, that's code. You can come out with a brand new understanding somewhere. And this is what Bezalel, as we said, employed to get the divinity out of the construction of the Mishkan. Right? He knew how to decipher the code. He knew the Meichen, the intellect of the Hebrew language in the verses. The Zohar says there's another level you might not have known. You probably knew Atbash, opposite letters, and Gematria, and all of these things. You probably knew that. What you might not have known is there are additional letters, just like the ayin of Ashtei Esrei, but a hey here and there, a yud, a beit at the beginning of the word. When there are additional letters that make no difference to the actual word itself, like Aaron, ark, is a complete word. It doesn't need any repair. And all of a sudden, a Ravna has a hey at the end. What is that all about? You don't need that hey at the end. They say that is the malchus of klippa, of evil, of the other side. Not him. But he represents the concept of, let's say, the evil ark. And again, it's not him per se. It's the level of what he represents. Let's say there's the Malchus, the kingdom of David, in Atzilus, the higher world, and a Ravna represents the association with the other side, the lower worlds, coming out of there. And it allows you to know what the dynamic of the relationship is. Every word in Hebrew has either a complete holy component, like our own ark, no superfluous letters. Or maybe a word has superfluous letters. The idea is that Hebrew is like Braille. And you can read the connotation based on an extra letter, a missing letter, an opposite letter. And thus the code commences. The Midrash Rabbah gives many explanations on the Parsha about how this code works. Again, they use Shittim as one of the examples. The area by Moab, at the border of where the Israelites went into Israel, all the things that happened there with Bilam and Balak. So the Mishkan uses the wood of Shittim to repair that blemish. There's a code. It's not an accident that it's Shittim wood. It's not an accident that the word Amma is used. It's not an accident that Rachav's name is in there with that extra hay at the end. And all the time you have to know which way to take it, to this side, to that side. Which way are we taking the inclination? And there's no guessing involved. Otherwise you would say that a Ravna is a bad guy. He's one of the best guys ever was. So why is there that hay? You have to know how to interpret when these codes come up. It's called Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration. And that's what King Solomon got from the Mishkan. He got the divine inspiration. In fact, Rashi claims that when you study the name of God as Shemu Elohim, the relationship with God, you can only convey matters of God through divine inspiration and code. And lastly, in the Zohar, the opening content and much through the entire thing of the passage of the Zohar is the idea of Shabbos. The Mishkan is synonymous with Shabbos. They really go hand in glove. 39 labors made the Mishkan. Those 39 labors are the microcosm of the universe. And those 39 labors are what are prohibited on Shabbos. If you don't do the 39 labors on Shabbos, you have stopped, which is the literal meaning of the word Shabbos. Okay, that's the introduction. The Ger Shabbos. How many times have we gone over the Ger Shabbos? 1,000,000. And it looks like it's not going to stop anytime soon. Today I got a phone call about it. People are asking, and Facebook people want to know, what do you mean? And for some reason, Ger 21 just isn't getting out there enough, I guess. I don't know. I mean, how many times can you repeat Krisis 9a? There's always different angles and viewpoints to take. So here we have the opening segments of the Parsha. And without hesitation, God commands Moses right into the Mishkan, 39 labors, keep Shabbos. Right off the bat. And anybody looking at this will say, that's a Jewish Shabbos, way to go boys, keep Shabbos. But why does it say, don't light a fire? Why would you think I wanted to light a fire? B, why did you pick fire out of all the things possible? How about write my name? Walk far out of the city? What are some of the other malachas? Borer? Pick the corn out of the salad? Why fire? The answer is very apropos. That fire tips you off. That in the festive holidays like Passover and Sukkot, it's not quite Shabbos. You're allowed to cook a food through the pre-lit flame. You can transfer the flame and cook. Krisis 9a of the Noahides Shabbos. A Ger Toshav keeps Shabbos. And the Ger Toshav way. One of the ways is like Yom Tov, holiday, Chol Moed, the intermediary days, or a regular day, just say Shabbat Shalom. So here, randomly, in our Parsha, we have all of a sudden fire. And I'm thinking holiday, the Shabbos of the non-Jew, of the Ger Toshav. When you look at the first three verses, or the first 3-4 verses of the Parsha, you'll see on one hand it sounds like it's talking only to the Jews. At the same time, it can be talking to the Noahide. For you, 6 days of the week you work. Okay? That's the Jews, but in one respect, that's very much Ger Toshav. It'll be a holy day to God. Okay, that could be either one. If you do work on it, that day you'll die. That's very Jewish. But at the same time, maybe it's warning me not to do work for the Jew. And that's exactly why in Parashas Mishpatim, in Parashas Jethro, the non-Jew cannot do work on Shabbos in fear he'll do work for the Jew. They'll take advantage of the relationship, and the Jew and the Ger will work together. The Ger will do work for the Jew. They have a nice little business transaction going on. No problem here. So again, maybe it's a rabbinical enactment for the Ger. Maybe it's literal for the Jew. Then it talks about the fire. The Jew cannot do that. The Ger can. Why compare and contrast the one thing that really defines the union of the two? It's very apparent. There's a major dynamic going on in the beginning of our Parsha. It's not just a one-stream train of thought. Either the Jewish Shabbos or the Ger Shabbos. Bigfoot is just blurry. How many times have I said that? Bigfoot is just blurry. Right? A lot of times it's called, in terms of mochin, intellect. The real intellect of the verses. You can't just pinpoint it down and say, oh, it is this or it is not that dogmatically. A lot of times there's a reboy going on. In more than one scenario at one time. Our Parsha is that. It is not just Shabbos. In fact, it is just Shabbos. But by saying it really is just Shabbos means the Jew and the Ger together are here. And that gives us a nice stream of thought now from Mara, the bitter waters of Mara, to Sinai, and onwards from Sinai to Mishpatim, into the creation of the Mishkan, sin the golden calf. And now we have the official command coming down with the Mishkan. It's ready to be built and the labors. Shabbos is here. Jews were commanded at Sinai and preempted at Mara. The Noahide, the Ger Toshav, was given Shabbos at Mara. Big difference. One is commanded, one is given. And if think about how it is practically. If I command you, there's a Yetzer Hara not to. If I give it to you, there's a Yetzer Tov to do it. The waters at Mara were bitter. The commentaries say this is an analogy. It was literal, but it's also an analogy. It's mazel language from God to man. Like the bitter olive. When you squeeze it and prepare it, the finest oils come out. If you can make Shabbos not bitter like an olive, but precious like olive oil, then you taste the delight of Shabbos. You understand God. You have a relationship with God in the world. That's what Shabbos means. And then you can honor your parents. The second statute given at Mara. Because God is there. You're already honoring God. God was there when He made you between your parents. Now you can understand how something was bad becomes good. Red heifer. And the statutes involved to make it work. There's the 4 commandments at Mara. Sinai comes, the Ger Tzedek in the 10 commandments. You should rest, your daughter, your son, your maidservant, your ox, your donkey, and the Ger Sharecha. The Ger in your gate. And we say, oh, what? Rashi says it's a Ger Tzedek. The Ramban says it's the Ger Toshav. In the other location in Parashas Mishpatim, they again say the opposite. Rashi says it's a ger toshav, another verse of you should rest, and the Ramban says that's the ger tzedek. And both opinions are necessary. And what are they explaining it by? Code. The Ramban says ger b'sharecha, the ger of your gate, that's code. Do you know, you know any ger that's in your gate that's not a ger toshav? By code definition? Rashi says, yeah, actually I do. When you have the letter hey in front of the word ger, that's ger toshav. So there are more than one streams of thought in the code of the ger. In the end, we get both. In your gate with the hey, we learn Torah code from ger. At Sinai, in the Ten Commandments, the ger of your gate, let's just keep with Rashi, the ger tzedek, non-Jew, as the regular Jewish convert, he's keeping Shabbos like a Jew, no worries. And now the ger tzedek, non-Jew, we need him to keep Shabbos. He came from a great distance to be in your land. If he's living in your land, the Vilna Gaon says he's obligated to keep the mitzvahs. That's what a ger tzedek is to the Vilna Gaon. Or you take the other definition, he simply has a bris milah, a circumcision. Or another definition, he came from a great distance to dwell with you on Shabbos. And he's not Jewish, you cannot have him using your microwave on Shabbos. Because then your son will see you using the microwave, your friend goes back to Nebraska, and your son says, hey, can I use the micro like he did? So if you're in the house, you have to keep the malachas. It's derech eretz. So now we have precedent from Mara, Sinai, and now into the Mishkan, where it was built by the 39 labors. We are told, with a nice introduction, how to keep Shabbos, with a segue into the ger tzedek world, ger toshav world, Krisis 9a. You're allowed to light a fire and cook as one of the 3 prescribed ways. For the satisfaction of the soul called ochel nefesh. To eat, smoke a cigarette, watch TV, whatever you have to do. You just have to do it, you can do it. Or if it's a loss, you can do it. My bottle of wine broke. I need to drive to the store and buy a new bottle of wine. There also you can do it. Or you can simply make it a mundane day and say, Shabbat Shalom, have a nice day. And then there's the party line that we've all heard. A goy to keep Shabbos is chayav misa, he's obligated to die. And then they say, oh, well, I know a guy, and he's converting, and he pulls one hair out every Shabbos so as to not keep Shabbos. Maybe that's written, I've never seen it, that's not the point here. The point we're trying to get at is, the idea of keeping Shabbos and you die is a Rambam, and it's not a literal Rambam. The Rambam is saying, you're guilty by the hands of heaven. And why would you be guilty by the hands of heaven if you know you're stepping on toes, and you're doing it to step on toes? You're guilty. But not so much for, let's say, doing the Shabbos. You're guilty for being a bad person. Right? You're like Gargamel from the Smurfs. I'm going to get those Jews. I'm going to keep Shabbos. I mean, what is that? Like 3rd grade? You're going to get revenge on some people? Give me a break. So the idea is, if you're doing it to be a bad person, step on toes, make waves, be controversial, go on Facebook and YouTube telling everyone, I'm a non-Jew, I kept Shabbos, and I went in the synagogue, made a ruckus, and they threw me out because they don't know what a Karaite is, all these things. Okay, you know what you're doing. If you're keeping it Krisis 9a, you're keeping it from the love of God, the love of Israel, the love of Sinai, the love of Torah, love of yourself, love of humanity. You are not obligated to die. But I assume then, at that level, you will know how to keep Shabbos in the mature, responsible way. And it's brought down what that way is. Krisis 9a. The 3 methodologies of keeping Shabbos. And all of a sudden, the Brit becomes a Brit Shalom. It's the covenant of peace. You were given as a gift Shabbos at Mara. The Kabbalistic word daba here has a very nice analogy of the king has the maiden, and she's keeping Shabbos with the king. The king has sons, and the queen says, why don't you bring your sons? And he says, yeah, why don't I bring my sons? The whole point of creating and having Shabbos was for them. I do it for them, and besides, they make me happy. Very simple analogy brought by the boy here. The Mishkan is created by 39 labors. Or as they say in the Mishnah, 40 minus 1. The 39 labors are creative labors that are creatively done with machshava. They are thought-provoking labors. Right? When I dye like threads for spinning wool, I have to think about how to do it. Right? I can't just magically do it or accidentally do it and I did a labor. You have to creatively do the labor. That's a labor. Right? When I draw my name, I'm thinking D, A, alright, such and forth. Everything I do with the 39 labors, I'm thinking about. When I pick the corn out of my salad, I'm saying, okay, here, what do I want? I want the peas and the carrots, not corn. Corn is bad. I don't want corn. I might not make it audible in my mind as such, but that's really even the quiet audible that I'm getting into. I'm being conscious what I don't want, what I do want. That's called machshava, creative thought. The Mishkan was built on those creative thoughts. On Shabbos, we don't do those labors. That's the Jewish Shabbos. When you refrain from 39 labors and you rest accordingly to the stopping of those labors. Meaning if it's counterproductive if you're not resting, yet you're stopping. So resting and stopping go together. Stopping and resting are not the same. Resting comes from the name Noah, Yaniach, which is not rambunctious. It's the opposite of rambunctious. The Noahides are not per se commanded in stopping, but in not being rambunctious. The idea of resting. Now, how far they want to go in stopping, that's upon you. Right? You can, if you choose to not do certain labors, that's your decision. And it has no contradiction to Creases 9a. And now that we've gotten from this point, and through Genesis, Bereshis, through the giving of the Torah, from Mara, through the statutes of Mishpatim, the golden calf episode, now we have a real Torah. We're going into Vayikra. We finished the first two parts of the Torah. Vayikra is the middle book of the Torah, the heart of the Torah. We're using the Mishkan. We're relating to the Mishkan. Now we understand why we're here, who we are, what's it about. Forget the golden calf, forget the non-Jews, forget the Jews, forget everybody. We're here for one reason. We're here for God. And every day, seventh day, we're here on Shabbos to celebrate and remember God is creating the universe, created the universe, will create the universe. Shabbos is the flagship, eternal, universal mission of Israel. Israel through the four-headed shin, the Cohen, the Levi, the Israelite, the Ger. The beauty of Torah learning, the 39 malachas, the 39 labors, that it's a special scholarship in its own right, the 39 labors. And my smicha particularly came in the 39 labors of Hilchos Shabbos. It's fantastic. Every week Shabbos is coming. It's you just get into Shabbos. The beauty of the learning of Shabbos is it actually does improve your Shabbos. It's an ongoing relationship, kind of like fixing your golf swing with God. And every week you're just fixing it, this and that. And it literally will take 15 or 20 years to get a good Shabbos. It's an investment. But once you hit full stride, you're there. You know what you do, you know who you are, you know where you go, you know, it's just, you're there, you're building something with God. And it'll never be taken away. And scholarship is the pinnacle. Just getting into it, thinking about it. We see it coming really into focus with our first couple verses of the Parsha. Right? We see that by a little bit of knowledge of the Ger Toshav and Shabbos and Malacha, and we look at our verses, and they went from being mundane and rambling on, maybe even a little bit boring, and you say, wait a minute, there's an incredible dynamic here, the Ger and the Jew. If I look at it this way, it's Jewish, and I look at it this way, it's Ger. And maybe I look at it in one shot, it's both. We've now seen where Krisis 9a comes really into focus. The Jewish Shabbos into focus in one spot. There's a mazel to the Torah. Meaning it's not an accident. There's intention, there's intellect, there's mochin. There's both peoples represented equally. No competition or battling. It's a divine plan. And the rest of the Parsha has a lot of profound ideas that are all relative to the Shabbos. Studying Malacha, the creative work. Really knowing what is Shabbos. What is the Mishkan? Which allowed, as we said, King Solomon to build a temple. The ability to identify in the Torah, let's say the written Torah, and then to go find it in the oral Torah. In the oral Torah, find it in the written Torah. What happens on Shabbos, to find it written in the books. To do what's in the books and go and do it on Shabbos. The scholarship is actually the main thrust of the week on Shabbos. I mean, Shabbos is the time of Torah study. And it comes out with a divine predictability. It's not like you say, well, this sounds like it could be this or it could be that. It comes out that when you study the Shabbos, and now we're seeing this goes for the Ger and the Jew, and when they work together, it's even more profound. You'll find the exact results in the written Torah or the oral Torah. In fact, when I got my smicha, Zal Menachem Goldberg pulled me aside and said, you want to know what really being a rabbi is? Don't give me logic and your reason, your rationale for answers. You need to be, if I ask you a question, show me where it's written black and white. And I mean really written. And don't parrot it, don't mimic it. If I say, what day of the week did Moses take a shower? Don't say, hey, look, it's written in the Midrash. Moses took a shower on Tuesday. That's not what we mean. The Torah is one huge entity. And you have a case, you say, a guy, I'm just making this up for context, right? A guy went outside, had a rock in his pocket. It was illegal to carry a rock. He put it down on a stump. Could it be that he can come back an hour later and take the rock off the stump? Right? Classic type of Jewish question. All right? And you say, wow, I don't know the answer. Well, it could be it's a Makkah Bator, and it's Chayav and Shabbos, and you go through all the different permutations. I don't know. You find a Tosfos in Sanhedrin 44b talking about the Megillah reading. I'm making this up. Don't check these sources. This is for context. Megillah reading that was done in the first temple, or no, there was no Megillah, in the second temple on Tuesday, and the Kohen Gadol got sick, and he couldn't come to the temple, so they called his cousin. And he came in, but he was late because he had to put a rock on a stump. And they say, that's it. That's it. And he put the rock on the stump, and you work out the whole situation. You say, that's your answer. That's really Geshmak Talmud Torah study. You go through a whole case, and you go through a whole bunch of Torah, and you unpack the Torah, and you find the answer in the Torah. And when you part the sea, so to speak, it's right there. For example, we proved Ger Tzedek the other day. Right? The Vilna Gaon says a goy, use the word goy for stress, that lives on the land is obligated in all the mitzvot. And the Bava Metzia 1:11b says, if a Jew damages a ger on the land, and they say it's a Ger Tzedek, in his animal or his vessels, you have to pay him. Most people would say that that's a convert, the Ger Tzedek. But we see from the Vilna Gaon, a non-Jewish Ger Tzedek on the land is obligated in the commandments, therefore he is a Ger Tzedek. That's one of those cases where you dig and you part, and there it is. So with the Ger and the Jew coming together on these issues, the whole Torah now becomes an open book. Things we never would have looked at become a possibility. The learning grows, the revelation grows, Shabbos grows, relationship with God grows. Knowledge of the Ger code grows. We start looking in areas of Torah we never thought to look. Right? All of a sudden we see a Ger here. We say, was that a non-Jew? We see a Basula over there. Oh my, was that a non-Jewish woman? All through the Torah now becomes, I never thought the people were doing this over here. Was that the people? The wood of Shittim caused the Mars to blow up. The Shittim! Whatever it is, the code grows the more the two come together. We went into, in the Midrash on the Parashas Sol Mazal, right? But Salel's name read is what allowed him to know the wisdom how to make the Mishkan. And the Midrash brings the ultimate Sol Mazel source there is, in Isaiah, that Hashem calls the stars by name and number. And the commentaries say, and Vilna Gaon also, obviously, that's where you have a name and a number from. Even Abraham, his name means Bara Ma, the name of God who created. He had a Sol Mazel name. I get the idea of Sol Mazel naming from these concepts themselves. The Zohar, the Midrash, the Navi. Shabbos is a time you have your name and number. It's the time Hashem does call you by name. It's when you are revealed and known before God. It's the ultimate strengthening of the soul. In Isaiah 58:13 and 14, we say this in Kiddush. Im tashiv. If you rest your leg from going on the honorable day, and you don't do whatever you desire, you don't speak idle things, you do all these things on Shabbos. There's like 5 main things in that verse. The very next verse are what the Ramchal calls the essence of mankind. Then you will delight on the Shekhinah. And that's what Shabbos is about. That's what Shabbos is about, perceiving the Shekhinah. That's the essence of the Mishkan. If you read the first 2 words, Im Tashiv, it's the gematria of the Kol HaTorah. There you have your Machin, your intellect, it's there. And you break it up again. Here's a little bit of B'tzalel for you. Im Tashiv, Aleph Mem, space, Tav Shin Yud Beis. Read it as Emet, Aleph Mem Tav, Shin Yud, Shai, the gift of Beis 2. Emes is a gift of 2. The people. What are we going to do with these people? They brought more malacha than we could use. Moses said, okay, people, Gerim, stop bringing malacha. We have enough. And you look into that, you say, well, how do we use the word malacha here? Is it what we do or the product of what we do? So you can't just go ahead and cook a cholent on Shabbos from scratch. But if you already cooked it, you can bring it. And the people are bringing what they already made. This is a tremendous idea of working hard on Shabbos. You can't do the 39 labors, but you can help do the dishes. You can clear the food from the table. You can be a mensch. You can treat your wife like an Eishes Chayil. You can prepare a lot for Shabbos. The harder you work, not in 39 laws, the more you're building that third temple. The more you're resting. The more you learn Derech Eretz, which is the gematria of the malachas that came, as the commentary of Rashi suggests. And the biggest work you can do, the hardest work you can do, malachas machshavas. Don't do the work that requires thought, but think. Not about work, but think. Make your mind a malacha. Make your mind work. Creative thought. To where you need to write down your answers, but you can't write down. You cannot break Shabbos and write down the answers, so keep going and thinking. So one good malacha to not do would be writing. Let your mind go. Let your mind wander, think, ponder, contemplate God. Prepare your food. Take care of your needs so you can be in the realm of God resting. And that ultimately is that repair of the golden calf, where you beat the evil inclination, you defeat the angelic struggle inherent in Yisrael. With the divine you have striven and you have overcome. There's a lot of flavors of Torah. A lot. You have halacha, midrash, scripture, messianic, characters, plot lines, Kabbalah, Chassidus. The oral Torah has many tractates, each one with a separate, unique, distinct flavor. And there's mochin in everything. Intellect. You part the water. You get into the kishkes. It's called iyun. Intense, in-depth learning. You look up everything. You question everything. You turn everything. You engage everything. You find the mind of God in Torah. Kol Torah is that. The Vilna Gaon shows you in his work on the redemption, which is very Betzalel learning, the maker of the Mishkan, Atbash, Gematrias, hints, initial letters. Find God underneath the text. It's not God per se. It's the mind. It's the divine mind. When you incorporate it in your heart, which is the circumcision of the heart, then you become the vessel that God chooses to walk with. Then you have your relationship with God, and on Shabbos God rests, you rest. And you have a unique opportunity to know God. As the Shabbos is the ultimate macro, if the moch and the intellect in the verses, in the text, is the micro, Shabbos is the macro where your world is illuminated with God. Forget about all the little things in this world. One day a week you're with God on the macro. A relationship with the Creator as an opportunity in this world to connect to the Creator as He is creating the world. As the name Elohim, Hashem Hu Elohim, a unique role. In Olam Haba, it's not going to be this way. When they say you don't have a role in Olam Haba, if you're a Christian or an idolater, it doesn't mean that you messed up and you're punished. Maybe yes, maybe no. There's the whole thing. You're a good person, bad person. Plenty of religious people are not good people. You don't get grandfathered in because you have a name tag. What you're missing is the experience and the opportunity. If you don't, as King David says in Tehillim, if you don't know God's name, Hashem Hu Elohim, how can you know it in Olam Haba? What are you building for yourself there? Okay, you helped your old next door neighbor with the groceries. That's a good deed. You're in for that. But that's a very general thing. It's a mitzvah. It's a good deed. You're awesome. Shemayim is smiling on you. You'll get it. Your reward for that. If reward is the issue we're talking about. But as a philosophy of life, the ability and merit to know God the Creator. And you are the vessel in God's hand as He's creating. That's the opportunity. And that's where Shabbos, the whole thing, the whole weekday, all of history is really revealed to you. The more vessels you gain, the more openness you are to that. I hope you guys like the joke at the end of the article about the gefilte fish. Right? You bring the chrein, I'll bring the gefilte fish. We'll all have Shabbos as one. I think everyone that knows, the way I worded that, we all know the real famous quote. Hine maktovu manayim sheves achim gam yachad. Right? Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. But you take one look at dwell, and you see it spells Shabbos. There's a classic example, double entendre, the Mishkan code. I see Shevis, I see Shabbos. You say tomato, I say tomato. The whole Torah is that. The ger is a convert, it's a ger toshav. It's a this, it's a that. The ger code points it out. I would never think Shabbos is here. It's Shevis. Bring the ger in. I have reason now to say Shabbos. As we all say, as I always say, in Torah learning, there are times you just go. You get a little stumped and you just go. 9 times out of 10, you just tripped over the ger. And the reason why you just tripped and kept going is you said, something here is blurry. And the answer is, Bigfoot is just blurry. It's not the photographer's fault. At least now we know why things are blurry. 2 nations are side by side, always were. One is revealed, one is hidden. And there's always a positive and negative in any situation. When the covenant came down in Sinai, and the golden calf, and the future, and later on in Devarim, we're going to get the covenant coming into the land. And the Shabbos has fallen on Israel, and we know who that is for. At Sinai, Shabbos came down for the whole world, the Jewish people of Am Yisrael, and the Ger Toshav of the world connected to Am Yisrael. Thank you very much, and as apropos, have a great Shabbos.